action heroes and phoenixes. I'm Debbie Levitt from dcx. Welcome to episode 271, where we are going to be talking about open source AI. And we are going to be joined by a guest in just a minute. And I'm just getting some of my screens ready. And of course, we always welcome your questions. So if you have a question about open source AI, I'm not going to know the answer, but our guest is. So make sure you get that question in the chat and it'll pop up on the screen, and we're happy to help. Hey, don't forget that our Discord is free. Lots of stuff related to our community is no charge. So I hope people will head to dcx.to, which is our resources page. Check out our free Patreon, my courses, my coaching, the Discord. There's all kinds of stuff that you can be a part of. And, well, hey, just do it already. So with that, I am going to bring in the Discord. There's all kinds of and, with that, I am tell you all himself. Please welcome Alan Underwood. Alan, tell us all about you.
How's it going, everybody? So I had the unique opportunity when IBM Watson launched to be in the room when that happened. And it changed my little life where I got to see Watson go on Jeopardy. It was literally 100 feet from my cubicle at IBM. And it completely inspired me to see AI as the future. Now, this was 2011, so today is the future. And I have been on a very long journey since then. I hope to share a little bit about that journey and the power of open source AI with all of you.
Excellent, excellent. So amazing that you have that background. Are there other AI projects or companies that you were involved with that you're allowed to tell us about? Because I recognize you might not be.
Absolutely. There's plenty that I'm not allowed to talk about, and plenty that I am. The
Cool.
biggest one that I'm allowed to talk about is a shameless plug for my own startup, which is ice9.ai. Um, so we're doing preference-based AI, and I have worked for some other major corporations in the past. I think I can name names, but just to be sure, let's call them major corporations.
Got it. Okay, well then people will just have to snoop your CV online or something. So today we're going to be talking about open source AI, and I'm sure people who are watching this live or watching it later, because it'll be archived on YouTube, might be wondering, what's open source AI? Because people might be familiar with Claude and ChatGPT and Perplexity and other things. So what is open source AI?
Absolutely. When we talk about Claude or GPT or things like that, those are huge, large language models running in the cloud. When we talk about open source, often we're running on our own computers. So that would be something like Llama from Meta or Mistral, which was, as I recall, recently acquired by Microsoft. But it's running on your own computer, your own hardware. You can deploy it to the cloud, but you're not paying a major corporation to access it. You're running it yourself.
Okay, so if I'm running it myself, does that mean it's not training on whatever I'm doing with it?
That's correct. It is pre-trained, so it's not going to be taking all your data and shoving it up into somebody else's cloud. It's going to stay right there on your own local computer, your own server. Your data stays private. Not only that, though, you can actually read the source code of the LLM and see what it's doing. So you've got total explorability, which you just don't have with those other models.
Okay, so it's not reporting back to the mothership.
No mothership, no
Okay.
fathership.
And when I think about installing things like this on my own computer, or you said server, do I need any special equipment for that?
You could, but you don't need it.
Okay.
There are models of any size. You can run this on something as small as a Raspberry Pi or as big as a giant AWS instance.
Okay, so if I've got a Windows laptop or a MacBook, these could run these?
Correct. Correct. I run it on my own MacBook. I also have an old gaming computer that I use for this. So you can use whatever hardware you have, and then you just size the model to what you've got.
Okay, and I think some people who are used to like some of the big cloud AI API calls might be thinking, "Oh, I'm going to need tokens, or I'm going to need to pay for some sort of usage." Um, do we pay for it when we've got the open source AI?
Not usually. It's free to download, free to run, free to install, and if you use Olama, you can get a free API and start programming it directly as well. So no tokens, no API call fees, nothing.
And if people want to try some programming themselves, are there particular programming languages that it would be better for them to be familiar with?
I think you can do it in pretty much anything, but I use Python and occasionally Node.js.
Okay, got it. Um, so we talked a little bit about the costs that in many cases this might be cheap or free. Is this going to drive our electric bill up?
Good, actually, depending on how many GPUs you're running. If you've got a server farm in your living room, like I do, you very well
Okay.
could experience higher electric bills.
Got it. Okay, so for those of you with a server farm in your house, that this you could notice a change in your electric bill. And then let's also talk a little bit about privacy and security, because I know, especially in UX and product related jobs, we're often worried about putting personally identifiable information into these models or back into the cloud. So if I'm running this in my own on my own computer, my own server farm, tell me about any privacy or security risks.
Sure, there's always security risks with these models, where if someone, like, say you allowed end users to connect directly to an LLM, you could potentially allow security vulnerabilities, and I wouldn't say otherwise. But I would say they're reduced because you are not sending information anywhere but your own servers, which means it's all within your own control, compared to like an OpenAI, where if you send it to, ChatGPT, that's in OpenAI's control, and they can, based on their terms of service, do anything they want to with that information.
Got it. Okay. So this should be kind of this is your walled garden.
Correct. Correct.
Okay. And let's see. So I'm looking at what we promised people we would talk about today. So we talked
Mhm.
about that you can get these models in some cases for free, that there shouldn't be a privacy concern. You can keep the data private and secure on your own system, and you could even replace paying for a Claude or Chat GPT by spinning up your own instance.
Yeah, absolutely. And this is great for hobby projects too, because you don't necessarily want to incur a bunch of API fees when you're in development mode. You don't want to, for personal projects, you don't want to run up a bill for those. And you can even run it on a Raspberry Pi if you don't want to assign, major computing resources to it.
Okay, excellent. Let me see what else I was going to ask you. So, something you told me we would talk about today, and I don't understand it, so I can't wait for you to explain it. You said set up document search and. Okay, excellent. So, understand it, so I can't wait. Document search. I think I know what a document search is, but what is a RAG pipeline?
Here's my pop quiz. It stands for Retrieval Augmented Generation. And I only know that because I'm reading notes in front of me. What a ragpipe what a rag pipeline does is it takes a set of documents. If you've got a bunch of PDFs or say my own personal website, which is where I did it, or even say an enterprise collection of documents out there in any format, it'll train the LLM on your documents, and then you can ask it questions about the documents, and it'll answer based on that information. You can set it up quickly. It took me about 15 minutes with a tutorial to just put this in. And you can use open source tools all the way through. So LangChain and Olama with the Llama 3 model, and you're done. You've got a chatbot that can talk to you about your documents.
Okay, interesting. Do you have a few examples of when people might want to do that running from their own system?
For sure. Well, I mentioned my personal website. So I'm a UXer. I have a portfolio. You can go ask questions about my case studies. Does Alan know Figma? Does Alan know CSS? And it'll go, yes, yes. And then you say, does Alan know RAG pipelines? And since that's not on my resume, it might say no, right? Um, so that's an obvious use case. Another one, though, would be like support documents. If you've got, say, a bunch of documentation for an open source application that you're writing, or even a closed source app, you give it all your support tickets, you give it all your support documentation, and you say, hey, I'm having a problem. And it can go search that information and come up with answers.
Now, and something that I can think of here is, oh, hi, Pumpalate, good to see you. Something that I sometimes think about is I have what feels like 9,000 PowerPoint documents, and sometimes I'm looking for where is that slide? And I might have written that slide in 2019. Could I set up one of these systems to really drink in every slide and every note in my PowerPoint document and then later on query it? Could I really drink note in my PowerPoint and then later it and say slide? Oh,
You
did I
could.
blip?
I thought it was me that blipped. One of us blipped.
I'm sorry, it's probably me. I am on a hotspot.
No worries. I did get your question, though, and the answer was yes.
Ah,
You may need to convert your PowerPoints to PDF or figure out a connector so that it can read the PowerPoint files directly,
okay.
which probably isn't that hard. But yes, the fundamental answer to your question is yes, it can do that.
Okay, interesting. Yeah, and I saw that we have a few people watching live on LinkedIn and some watching on Twitch and YouTube. If you have any questions about running your own open source AI on the computers and systems that you own and control, we are so lucky to have Alan here. Please ask your questions, all questions. Welcome. So I'm going to jump back. While I'm jumping back to some of the notes of what we were going to talk about today, any topics you wanted to bring up?
Sure, yeah. I mean, you and I met in a product design, UX research context. So I do kind of want to bring up for our UXers in the audience. This is really great for automatically captioning images to get free alt tags. Sometimes,
Ah,
not always, but sometimes we have a big pile of images that don't have captions or tags, and it can be pretty expensive to do that. So you can use these open source models. There's one called Lava, which is a vision model, and you just ask Lava to caption the image, and it'll give you a caption. Now, it may not be perfect, but it's still better than a blank alt tag for accessibility. So you get a free, pretty much instant accessibility boost from using these open source models.
interesting, interesting. What about some other applications potentially for UX researchers, strategists, designers? Anything else you can think of?
You know, I think UX research and AI is a little bit of a hot but controversial topic. So
Mm,
I am not going to I'm not going to sit here on this show and advocate for fake AI users. I'm not going to do it.
no, thank you.
Um, however, however, what you can do is summarize research, and this requires some creative prompting. But I've done it in the past. You
I have
really
two.
want to focus on these prompts. Right, right. It can be super powerful. However, it can also be a little questionable in that what you're really looking for is unique insights. Like our users want a dashboard that updates routinely. That's not a unique insight because you're building a dashboard. Of course, they want a dashboard that updates. That's not an insight. So
Right.
you got to be kind of careful with prompting strategy here, but you're still not paying for it and you're still not sending your sensitive research documents to the cloud, right? You're not sending potentially competitive advantages. You're not exiting your ecosystem. And if you have an archive of product, say product research documentation, you can put that right RAG pipeline directly to it.
Right, interesting. So your RAG pipeline can be any set of documents, and hypothetically, they could be your interview transcripts or other data from there. Pumpa Latte says, I used one of the famous AI tools to summarize hours of interview scripts just yesterday, and it was disgraceful. So here I am reading every single text myself again. Alan, thoughts on that?
I agree. We saw that with ChatGPT. Um, and for sure, like I was saying about prompting, we were able to do some prompt engineering on that and make it better. So Pumpalate, you may be able to, massage your prompts a bit and get better information. But you're exactly right that this can right. Give it a quick rub down. No, but this can be a problem, right? You go into this thinking, oh, I'm just going to ask it to summarize because AIs are really great at summarization. But then, is it pulling out valuable insights? Is it hallucinating even? Like, is it just making stuff up? So there are concerns here, and I think it's good to go into that being aware of that.
Yeah, that's certainly great advice. And I know that I've had to refine my prompts over time when I've done this because I found that and again, people know that I tend to use Claude. Claude's my thing. I have a paid Claude account, and obviously it'd be better if I were doing this on my own computers, but I'm not sure I'm savvy enough. But the first time I tried to get Claude to do this, it was mixing in generic business advice. So it wasn't necessarily hallucinating, but it was mixing in like, and kind of like you said, and people would like a dashboard that connects to their current systems. And I said, I don't remember anybody saying that. Are you mixing in generic business advice that you've been trained on? And then it was like, oh yeah, I'm mixing in generic business advice that I was trained on. And I was like, no, if it's not in the transcripts, if it's not in my notes, don't give it to me. Would
Yeah,
would
you've
an
got to
open
keep these
source
things.
AI potentially make the same mistake and you would have to refine your prompt?
Hmm. It would, and it could potentially even make bigger mistakes because Claude, as smart or not smart as it can be, has way more GPU resources than I personally can provide, than most people can provide. So that's actually, a very high level system, and it's still making those mistakes.
Ah, got it. So some of this is related to GPU power.
It can be, yeah, and model sized, right? Where if you're using a 50 billion parameter model, you'll get presumably better results than an 8 billion, which is presumably better than a 3 million, right? So in theory, the bigger the model, the better. But as you just said, bigger doesn't solve every problem.
Sure, absolutely. At least when we're talking about this in early July 2025, these are still things that we do have to lightly or heavily babysit because of what the outputs are.
Absolutely.
We have a
I see a great
question from
question.
an extremely handsome man named Pier Mario Orecchioni, who happens to be my husband. And he asks, is there a starting point to learn more about which open source LLMs are available, or would it come down to single project websites or repos?
What an amazing question. I think this might be the moment to pull up the screen share
I
that
got
we
that
have set up.
feeling. We are ready to share a screen with you, and go ahead and tell everybody what website we are on. I think you said this is olama.com.
It is olama.com. Olama is an open source tool that lets you just swap in models. What's cool about open source is, you go to Claude and you get, what is it, the Sonnet model, or you get, some of the other models that Claude has. GPT has a few. But here we've got, literally hundreds to choose from. And you can just slot these in by saying, "Oh Llama, run Llama 3.2. Oh Llama, run Mistral. Oh Llama, run Lava." And you can just switch between them. It'll automatically download them and it'll connect it to the API.
Got it. And it looks like there are different models here that are created by different companies. So I guess if you have a preferred company or a hated company, you have a little idea of who to go towards or away from.
Absolutely, and different capabilities. Like, I think DeepSeek is something people may have heard of, where it was all over the news a while back. DeepSeek is a thinking model, and you can run that, which is different from, say, Lava, which is a vision model. So there's different types of LLMs in here as well.
And I think some people thought DeepSeek was controversial. So, like, I guess, can you make a controversial model less controversial by running it locally?
Well, you certainly limit the damage by just running it in your own environment, right? I think part of the controversial aspect of DeepSeek was, well, one, people just really plainly, people were concerned about propaganda going into the model, right? Where you go to DeepSeek Cloud and you ask it questions that certain governments may not want you to have the answers to, and DeepSeek will give you very different answers than what you get when you run it locally. Very
Oh, I
different.
see. So if you run it
Uh,
locally, it might not have that same, let's call it political bias.
Correct, correct.
Ah.
Because on the cloud, they're able to intervene and say, don't answer this question. But locally, you get whatever the model thinks the answer is.
Oh, interesting. I didn't know that. That's very interesting. Okay, so you're getting, hypothetically, DeepSeek knows lots of things and was trained on lots of things, but due to politics, governments, and other things, it just won't give you certain information.
Correct. In here, you'll also see some uncensored models, like that one that's just
Yeah, what
scrolling
does that
past,
mean? Does that
where
mean it says swear words?
partially, yes, it also means that, where it sometimes says, I'm just an LLM and I can't answer that question, or it
Mm,
says, for safety reasons, I can't answer this question, right? This is without guardrails. Now, that's good and bad. It pushes the
sure.
boundaries of what you can do forward, but it removes the safety rails that you would never do in a big instance on the cloud, right? So it lets you see more of what's in the model, it lets you see more of the capabilities, and it lets the developers push boundaries. But it does create, more, it puts the ethics on the user rather than on the provider.
Got it. Interesting. So, knowing that there's lots of models available at Olama from a variety of sources, if people wanted to start out with this and start playing around, and maybe they just have a regular old Windows laptop or MacBook Pro and not a server farm, what models do you recommend for, let's say, beginners?
I would say you just go to Olama, click the download button for Windows or Mac or Linux or whatever it is, install it, and maybe start with Tiny Llama because it's little, because you can just run that on any old computer. Now, I have a reasonably recent MacBook Pro, and I mean, like recent, like 3 years ago, but it can run Llama 3. It can't run Llama 3.2. So even within versions, you'll find some experimentation will be helpful, right? Where like it runs really slow in certain models and it runs really fast in others.
Got it. Thank you. Trying to see if there was a comment here. Yeah, we have a comment from Carlo. I don't know why it didn't show up on the screen, but Carlo says open source AI truly empowers users. What exciting projects could emerge from it? Do you have any examples of the types of projects people could try out? I think many of us are feeling the entrepreneurial spirit lately.
Oh, I am too. For sure. I mean, there are some really obvious use cases that are great, but one of my favorite, aspects of open source LLMs is product integration, where if you have a product already and you want to integrate AI, you're basically stuck paying API fees to these other corporations, which if you're a startup, you probably don't want to do. Maybe it's only $10,000 a year, but that's $10,000 a year you could do something else with.
Sure.
So you get free integration directly into your product, which is great, right? One of the most obvious examples here would be search results, where if you've got a search within your product, you could have the LLM summarize the results pretty safely and just give one of those like Google type summaries at the top of the page. here is potentially what's in these search results. Great way to just get started quickly, low risk, low cost, and low GPU overhead.
That's really a great idea that I hadn't even thought about because I'm playing with a new idea myself and I was thinking, oh, I guess I'll have to pay for the Claude Sonnet 3.7 API if I want to build some LLM or AI features into this product, but I hadn't even considered open source for what this would do, and I hadn't considered it open source for search. So thank you. I think you just saved me a lot of money, at least for whatever my version 1 will be. Let's
That's
see. Pumpalatte says, I see one called Med Llama 2 fine-tuned Llama 2 model to answer medical questions based on an open source medical data set. Is it for regular people? Can it be problematic?
I've never used this data set before, but I'm going to go ahead and say completely without any knowledge at all, yes, it can be problematic. Like, imagine WebMD in LLM form, because I just guessing that's probably what you're going to get. But it could also be really helpful. Like, I need a terminology lookup. Like, what does this terminology mean? Right? Hey, somebody says it helps them. That's great.
Well, I think they're joking
Oh,
that someone
no,
said,
no,
help me
that's
when I
it.
fell and I could not get up, smiley face. So I think that's a little callback to a TV commercial in America some of us will remember from the 80s. So napalm viral, nicely played there. Um, yeah, Pumpalate says,
Oh,
not
hey,
trying to find dirt, just scrolling through the website. But it's still a good question. I mean, just because something is open source or your walled garden or available for free doesn't mean it's without problem or without controversy.
Napalm's a friend of mine. I walked right into that.
Oh, okay. Well played. Well played. Um,
Well, but
yes. Love you, buddy. Beautiful. Beautiful. We're all about bringing people together on this channel. Let me see if I can I run my hearts and stuff? I'm trying to get my where's all my effects? I accidentally
he
closed my
deserves all
effects window. Now I can't run them. So going back to what Pumpalate was saying, um, open source medical data set problems. Go back to
Yeah,
where
I
you were
mean,
before Napalm interrupted us.
oh, he didn't interrupt. He's just playing along. So I would say, yeah, like any specialized set of data creates risks, right? Where, okay, so we take it out of a medical context and we put it into a financial context. Is this a stock I should buy? That's not a great question for an LLM, right? Maybe it comes up with an answer, but then again, so do tea leaves, right? This isn't necessarily the best use of that technology. I brought up IBM Watson, so I can pick on Watson a little bit. Watson Health tried to do something very similar, and wound up not being super successful. And by not super successful, I mean lost billions of dollars. Where health is a very difficult but very promising domain for AI. So I completely understand why there's research, why people want to push forward in that, but yet there's also risks to go along with it. Right? So remember that these open source AIs are allowing people to experiment. They're allowing people to just try stuff because they can go do what that description said, and they fine tuned it on a open source database, and here's the results. Are they good? Are they not? I don't know.
Sometimes I go to a commercial product that is an AI tool or has AI features, and they say, "Oh, we're basing this on an open AI model or a Claude model, but we've specially fine-tuned it to be extra good at this, or to approach this in a different way than than you would get with ChatGPT or Claude." If we're using open source systems, and we know what we're doing, because I know I don't, but if someone knows what they're doing, can they start creating those more finely tuned models?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. But you're right that this does require a whole lot of knowing what you're doing, right? Where this will be hard. Like, I don't even want to pretend that this is anything other than challenging. Fine tuning is probably pretty easy. LoRa training, will be lower difficulty. But say you wanted to create a whole new checkpoint of like pre trained knowledge, you need at least two GPUs, you need some specialized knowledge, and you need a data set. And I think when I work at large corporations, getting access to massive data is really easy. When I'm in my living room, it is not easy at all, right? So fine tuning is probably the best place to start there, and you can get some tutorials on how to fine tune Llama. Some tutorials, quite honestly, are better than others, right? So this may require a little bit of experimenting.
Great, thank you. Got some thumbs up on LinkedIn. We've got people watching live on LinkedIn, Twitch, and YouTube. Give us your questions. Does anybody else have any thoughts, comments, or questions? And while we wait to see if we get those, because there's a little delay in the show, I think Twitch sees us nearly immediately, and LinkedIn is usually a 40-second delay. So come on, LinkedIn, start typing. But is there any other topics you wanted to talk about that we didn't get to?
Oh, sure, I could talk about this all day, but I won't. Um, I use mainly vision models. So we're talking about LLMs because I think LLMs are the things people have most touched to, right? Like most people have used ChatGPT or Claude at this point, but things like Blip from Salesforce is an image captioner. We talked about image captioning. There's a specific image captioner. There are other models like YOLO, which can take a video stream or even just a picture and say, I think that's a picture of a sandwich, or I think it's a person running, or things like that. And you can run those again on low resource local systems. You can create your own fine tuned versions of them. You can do all of the stuff we just talked about, but you're not in an LLM domain. You're in a visual domain. And that's where I spend most of my AI time.
Got it. So for all of the people who might be feeling that entrepreneurial spirit, it's good to remember that there's many more models out there than a lot of us are used to. Like because I'm such a heavy Claude user, I always forget about visual or video or imagery or all these other things because I'm just working in text with Claude, and there's a lot more options out there.
Absolutely. And DALL-E just got integrated into GPT. Claude doesn't have the ability to generate images yet, but Midjourney is a very famous, well-known image generator, sort of maybe second or third place in its space. Midjourney is based on open source tools. It runs on Stable Diffusion. It's a very heavily customized, heavily trained, layer on top of Stable Diffusion. So Midjourney built its entire company, which I'm pretty sure is worth billions of dollars, based on Stable Diffusion.
And can we get stable diffusion from Llama?
No, you'll need to get it from what's the current one, Forge or Comfy UI. Um, but it is an open source tool, and you can go download it. The models are available on Hugging Face, so you can get it for free. Again, right, exactly. Well, it's the Huggy Face emoji, right? Like the one with the
Okay.
little hands. Yeah. Hugging Face is a great resource for free open source AI, actually.
Okay, great. So we have llama and we have Huggy Face. So spell that.
Oh, sure. Hugging, Hugging, Hugging Face.
Oh, Hugging Face, and
Is that
that's
weird?
.com.
I think so. How about just ask your LLM? No,
Hey, imagine that.
no, Hugging Face is a wonderful resource for getting started. It's got tons of models. You can even integrate it directly with Python so that it loads these models into your scripts if you're writing code.
Interesting. Thank you. I'm not seeing any other questions pop up. We still have some live viewers, and Napalm is cutting down on the jokes. So, any other topics or things you wanted to mention before we wrap up for today? I can't believe we're already 35 minutes in. Here we go. Napalm does have a question, and they ask any models that you have found that work better with audio?
Yeah. Well, Napalm and I were in a band together several years ago, so I totally understand where that question is coming from. There is a model called, and I'm looking it up because I want the name right, called Suno, Suno. Suno will generate songs for you, which is pretty amazing.
Okay, that's to
Now, it's not
generate songs. Is there an AI that will analyze songs or strip vocals off it or anything like that?
There are, and I'm unfortunately going to have to take a follow up on this one because I don't work with them. Like you were saying, you don't work with certain models. I don't work with audio very often,
Makes
but I
sense.
know one who does. He's a DJ. While I'm plugging people, I'll plug Selecta and Rain in San Francisco. But Selecta from that group has been working with AI models, and we can ask him for a follow up.
Yeah, I don't know about the open source models. I know to strip vocals, I've been using lalal.ai, LALAL.ai, but it's not open source. It's a tool that you pay for, but who knows what they're running. Maybe if we check their terms and conditions, they'll give away what they're running, and then we'll peel away the layers. Monica says, thanks. Always learn something new with you, Debbie Levitt. Well, today you're learning something with Mr. Alan Underwood, so special thanks to him. I always love having expert guests on the show. Any last questions from anybody? Start typing because we might be winding down. Alan, any other things you wanted to cover?
You know, what I love about this show, and thank you for bringing me on here, this is just such an amazing platform, such an amazing opportunity. What I love is how engaged everyone is, right? Where, like, we've got all these questions, we've got really good, deep questions coming through, but it's an area that I think most people aren't as familiar about. So I'm just happy to be able to raise some awareness out there and say, you know, look, you don't have to pay for this stuff. You don't have to give up control to major corporations. You can install this stuff. I am I real? I don't know if I'm real. That's a question I ask myself every
I
day.
cannot find Alan on LinkedIn. Is he real? Ooh. Did maybe he blocked you? No,
I,
I'm kidding.
not
Alan, are you on
not on purpose.
LinkedIn? Can we
I am.
connect with you?
You can. LinkedIn.com/in/Alan Underwood, ALAN Underwood. I'm actually kind of concerned that you can't find me on LinkedIn. I will look into that. But I'm there. I promise I'm there.
I think you and I are connected, so I do think you're there.
Yeah, check Debbie's connections. The photograph is AI generated, so if it doesn't look like me, that's why. It's black and white, looks thoughtful.
Yeah, it's a black and white picture. It's moody and pensive. No, I'm kidding.
That was AI generated from a little app on iPhone for headshot generation, which also not open source, but really handy. I had that for a conference talk that I gave a little while ago.
Sorry, my next meeting is saying they might have to cancel, which means more time for us. No, I'm kidding. One thing that I wanted to ask you, Alan, is um, AI can be so difficult to navigate, and we could always ask AI about AI, but sometimes it's better to have a human who knows what they're doing as a mentor or coach or teacher. Um, Paid or unpaid, are you available to help people?
I am. Um, you know, I've never done consulting before, so I don't know. I don't know how to charge anybody for that. So let's call that free. If you want to reach out, and you can find my LinkedIn profile, just do it. Right? Like my freelance policy right now is let's do something awesome and worry about money later. So let's do something awesome.
Okay, well, don't
To
forget
your
to
point
pay
about
Alan eventually. He's being too generous right now, and his expertise is definitely worth something. So maybe first two calls free, and then please pay this man. So, you know,
there you
uh,
go. Good
sorry,
luck.
sorry to be a mini capitalist, but we should get paid for what we can do.
Oh, good looking out. Seriously. Thank you. You know, the other part of that question though was about using AI to write AI. And I've been doing that. You gave me a suggestion about Claude a couple of weeks ago. So I
Yes.
took it and I installed Claude Code. And I have been working with Claude Code for about 2 weeks to build AI, having AI build AI. And I got to tell you, there's some advantages. I know, right? It's AIception. There's some advantages where I don't necessarily know the ins and outs of this. Like, I know what Bayesian models are. I can't necessarily implement complex deep Bayesian learning. I can't necessarily, implement a transformer code, but Claude can. Now, Claude is not the best coder I've ever worked with, but it's a really great way to get started where you
Right.
can really push your skills out past what you have.
Yes, true, true. Yes. Thank you. Thank you so much for all of this
Right.
information. Since I am not seeing any other questions, I think we'll probably start wrapping up the show. Holy cats, it's been 40 minutes. So thank you so much for some really interesting and timely information. Any last words or thoughts for our viewers?
No, thank you. I really appreciate being here. I appreciate all of y'all being here. I appreciate my friends for coming to support me. And, overall, I just want to say you can do this. That, I said Claude's not exactly God's gift to coders. Well, neither am I. And yet I was able to build an entire application that uses this stuff on my own.
Fair enough. And you can also find Alan in our Discord community, which is free. So I hope people will join Discord and give and take and support each other and keep sharing. So, Alan, I guess we will see you on LinkedIn if we can find you, and around Discord as well. I guess I should, oh, I forgot to play the wrapping up the show music. Hold on. There we go, a little mood music in the background. Napalm says, thanks to both of you, made venturing into this world a little less scary. Absolutely, Alan, you've given me lots of interesting ideas today, and I wouldn't have had them without you, so thank you. All right, I'm going to press the end the show button, and I will see everybody tomorrow for a short Ask Me Anything. Thanks again, Alan. Bye.
Bye, y'all.